إن الحمد لله نحمده نستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Brothers and sisters, as we approach the end of 2024 with the new calendar year starting next week, inshallah, we look back at 2024 and we see so many things have happened. Whether it's the passage of various new laws, whether it's the election of a new president, and whether it's the revolutions happening across the country, and whether, sadly, the one that will probably be remembered the most, or one of the ones that we remember the most in 2024, the ongoing conflict and war in Gaza, we see many things have transpired in 2024. And as these things have transpired, there's no doubt that there are lessons to be learned. And inshallah, in today's khutbah, I will reflect on 2024 and some lessons that we can take from it moving forward. The first thing that we can look at is we need to learn to think about and act as a unity of the ummah. And we need to learn how to not be selfish. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Cooperate together in goodness and righteousness, and do not cooperate in sin and transgression. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is telling us, as a ummah, as a brotherhood and sisterhood, we need to all make sure that we are united in this faith and that we are working towards a better cause of getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of following His commandments and directives. And of course, of following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when we see this, brothers and sisters, we have to realize we have a lot of work to do in this regard. We see there is so much unity locally in the United States, within our communities, and globally around the world. And we see this, for example, even within the theology. We look at, for example, people unfortunately will come into various masajids and fight over things and even create their own masajids because of their belief in a various madhab and saying, no, I follow this particular imam. The other one will say, no, I follow this particular imam. Okay, they fight, they clash, they open up an entire masjid because of their strong beliefs as to this particular type of madhab, even though we know and that we should all know that they are all correct, but just a different form of worship. But because of our fighting and stubbornness and lack of unity, we fight over these kind of things, or fighting over matters of fiqh, or fighting over matters, whatever it may be, even if it's, sadly, even if it's conflicts that we have, be it even in the dunya, we sometimes take this out more on our brothers and sisters than we would even on someone who's not a Muslim. And this is problematic. Of course, there's no doubt we will have differences, especially in the dunya, but it becomes problematic when it leads to this division, when it leads to this partisanship, when it leads to so much conflict that we can no longer even see someone and act together with them to follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you see, brothers and sisters, that while we fight, while the ummah fights over these kind of issues that I just discussed, the people who are controlling the narrative locally and around the world particularly, and we all know who these people are without getting into politics or without discussing these particular entities, we know the powers that control the narrative and the powers that control the things that are happening, the decisions, the big decisions that are happening around the world. These powers, they don't have conflict with each other. These powers, they work together 24/7 to push that narrative forward, to push their objectives forward. They don't rest. They are united in their cause. If they disagree, it won't be about these things. And on the major fronts, they are together. And likewise, brothers and sisters, we really need to consider this. And we really need to consider being on the same front together and move together. And this is the way that we enact change. This is the way that we enact justice. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold firmly onto the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do not divide. So this religion, brothers and sisters, is so beautiful, this deen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. As we look at it, many people just look at it, oh, it's the religion, it's the Quran, it's the Sunnah, we read Quran, we come to the masjid. Yes, of course, this is the forefront of the religion. But it's not just a religion to come to the masjid and do these things, these acts of worship only. It's a religion by which we live our way of life. It's a religion which guides our actions, in which we should have a scope, we should have a compass that is this action, are these things that we are doing, are they in line with the Quran and Sunnah? And this is something we should all ask ourselves. Every single decision that we make, brothers and sisters, we should be thinking about this in our head. And you know, this cooperation and this brotherhood, it's so strong and it reaches so far that it even transcends beyond humanity, such that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us that when we clean ourselves, then, and this is of course in that time period where they didn't have these modern toilets and these things and whatnot, that we have the facilities that we have. He taught us, Rasulullah told us that when we clean ourselves, use stones or something else, and do not use bones, because it shall serve as the food of the jinn. So some of the jinn, it used to serve as their food. So even transcends this unity, even transcends us as human beings into the jinn. Think about this. SubhanAllah, think about this, brothers and sisters, how important it is for us to be united as brothers and sisters, that we don't even pollute the food for the jinn. Now, the question becomes, how do we unite? How do we unite? Well, there's two major concepts we can look at around this, and first and foremost and most importantly is the faith. We have to put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and worship Him to the best of the abilities, and we have to use His compass, and we have to, of course, with this has to be knowledge. We have to all strive to seek knowledge, because how can you know how to worship Allah? How can you know how to follow the Sunnah if you don't know, if you don't read the Quran, if you don't read about the Rasulullah, if you don't read the Hadith, if you don't read it, you don't learn it, you don't study it, there is no way that you can act according to it. So this holds together hand in hand. But faith is the main factor, number one, that we have to unite upon. And this is why Rasulullah even said, someone asked him once of an action you can do where Allah and the people you will love Him. Think about this question, brothers and sisters. It's a great, beautiful question. This person is asking, and it shows you the mindset of the righteous predecessors, how they thought. And they're asking Rasulullah how they can do something to where Allah and the people, both aspects, deen and dunya, will love them. So Rasulullah said, don't concern yourself so much with this dunya, and Allah will love you. And have less concern of what others have. So we think about this, and we have to live according to, the world we live in, brothers. The reality is it becomes this kind of rat race in a sense, and it becomes such a materialized society, especially as we go further and further, mashallah, and we see the advancements now with artificial intelligence coming out, with all these things that no one could have imagined 10, 20, 30 years ago, that we continue to develop in a society, mashallah. And we think about these things, and as we get more and more people, they become jealous of each other. And they think, oh, this person has the electric car, I want this car. This person has this gadget, I want this gadget. This person has this phone, I want this phone. And we're always thinking, I want this, I want that, and become jealous of other people. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself advises us, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself, because this by itself, when you look at it again, according to this concept of unity, it will lead to divisiveness. It will lead to you having bitterness towards the people. It will lead to you getting upset at people. And this is not how you will unite, because if you have something in your heart against someone, how can you unite with them? How can you be merciful with them? How can you help this person when you have something in your heart against them? And sadly, brothers and sisters, we look at the routine of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and just to be frank, how far away in so many aspects our society and how we have gone away from this routine. So, for example, just some simple examples, and again, I'm just being frank, we look at our society, we look at the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his routine at night. What would he do? He would pray the Isha in the masjid, and then he would sleep soon thereafter. Not stay afterwards and socialize a lot, not have any other thing, not do lots of other stuff and stay awake, or the types of things that we do, watch TV or watch movies or go out and do whatever we do. Rasulullah used to go to sleep as early as he could. After he fulfilled his rights of praying the salah, he would sleep as soon as he could. And why would he do this? So that Rasulullah could get up early in the morning before the Fajr prayer, so that he could pray the tahajjud, so that he could get himself fresh for the next day, and get himself spiritually prepared. And really, when we look at this, brothers and sisters, we have to ask each and every one of ourselves, do we even make an effort to do this? The tahajjud is not far. I'm not even talking about this, but even for the fajr, do you get up in time? Ask each and every one of us, myself, you, we have to ask ourselves, are we making the effort to go to sleep on time so that we can get up and pray fajr? So that we can maybe come to the masjid and pray fajr? These are the times, subhanAllah, of course, everyone has their own situations and everyone knows their own professions and knows their own hours of work, etc. But for those who have the free time, especially when the Fajr is early in the morning, it's not unfeasible for you to come to the masjid and pray Fajr and then go to work after that, as many people do, mashallah. So we have to think about the routine of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and even this has just become the societal cultural norm that sleeping early, if you do that, this goes against the grains of society, where they expect Friday, Saturday night, we're supposed to stay out late, we're supposed to go to parties, we're supposed to eat out, we're supposed to go to a movie, we're supposed to do this, we're supposed to do that. Don't get me wrong. Don't walk away thinking, oh, this person's saying, no, you can't have fun. No, you can have fun, but try to encompass that fun within what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us. And we think about even, subhanAllah, even in terms of praying on time, how many of us struggle even just to pray the 5 salawat on time? Even just to pray them every single day, which we know is the most important thing. The most important thing on the Day of Judgment will be your salawat. So each and every one of us has to guard them as much as humanly possible. And when I think about this, I think about the hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to summarize quickly, when he went up to the heavens and he went through his journey, and eventually he got all the way up to the 7 heavens, and he went up and he met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is where, again, to summarize, this is where the legislation of salah came down. And when he was going through these heavens and he met the various prophets, mashallah, and he went through and eventually he met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him he started with 50 salawat. 50 salawat for the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam a day. And so he came back down and he talked to Musa alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam, mashallah, he had wisdom with his ummah, he had wisdom, he knows the people, he knows they can't handle this. So then he goes and tells Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, no, you can't do 50, the people cannot handle this. So then he goes back up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reduces, he goes back down. Musa alayhi salam says, no, he can't handle this. This goes back and forth, until eventually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that you can do 5 prayers a day and you will get the reward as if you did 50. And he goes back down and Musa alayhi salam tells him, and subhanAllah, we look and see the correctness of and the wisdom of Musa alayhi salam, how this is not how he knew the people. And he even knew how we were going to be, that he was telling the Prophet Muhammad, no, even 5 is too much, go and tell him to reduce it. But because of the shyness, the modesty of Rasulullah, he did not want to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for more. So this is why, of course, we pray 5 times a day. But when we think about it, brothers and sisters, how many of us even struggle to pray the 5? To pray the 5 daily on time. And so we get the reward of the 50, but we pray the 5, mashallah. So we need to all strive and really ask ourselves, how close are we to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? We should learn his routine. We should learn what he did, and we should slowly. Of course, you cannot do this all together. You have to learn and you have to incorporate. You have to learn and you have to incorporate. And this is what each and every one of us should do. We have to put in our efforts. Of the lessons from 2024, brothers and sisters, is we should be thankful for what we have. When we see the difficulty of our brothers and sisters around the world, be it in Gaza, be it in Sudan, be it in Syria, be it all around, be it in Burma, be it in wherever it may be, around the world. And there's much more, of course, than what I've named. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all of our brothers and sisters around the world. We realize that we, in fact, have more than we can possibly imagine. I think there was a statistic that was once out there that, just by virtue of being in the United States of America and living in the West, even if you make the minimum, even if you make the $30,000, $40,000 a year, you're still better off than 90 or 95% of the entire world. The entire world. Think about all the people in the world and how you're better off than that. Unfortunately, what happens is, and really if we look around, we have, mashallah, we have a nice masjid here, we have fans here to keep us cool. In the winter, we have the heat. We have clothing on our backs. We have transportation to get here. We have so many things that we don't reflect on, brothers and sisters. But really, what we should do anytime, because what we end up thinking, unfortunately, is we look at the others, as I spoke about earlier, and we think, oh, this person has this car, this person has this clothing, this person has this toy, this person has this person has that. I need this, I need that, I need that. Nothing wrong with striving for getting more in the dunya. Again, don't get me wrong, and we should strive to be the best at everything that we do. But at the end of the day, when you strive and you don't get something, and you are where you are at a certain point, we should be content with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to make ourselves more content with that and be thankful, we should look at those that are below us. As Rasulullah also taught us, to look at those that are above us in our deen, so we can continue to try to learn the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, never get too arrogant and think we know it all, and to look down at those who have less than us, in terms of the dunya. So then we can always be thankful that I have this. And Allah, this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you tried counting the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you would never be able to do it. Just try it one time. Try to start thinking about all the things you have. And when you do this exercise, you have the mouth you speak with, the hands that you can move around and do whatever it is you do with them, the eyes that you can see with, the hair that you have on your head, the brain that you have in your body, the legs that you move with, and so on and so forth. And you can go through every single body part and how it functions, and go to a hospital or go somewhere, ask a doctor, and ask them about all the patients that they see all the time. And ask them about all the difficulties that they've seen in the human body. One little thing malfunctions, the entire body can be thrown upside down. And it's something that we don't appreciate. Of the things we should think about, brothers and sisters, from 2024, the lessons is thinking good of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something that many of us, people ask this question. Non-Muslims ask it, and then now it hovers into Muslims as well. Well, where is Allah during these tough times? Where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during this war in Gaza, where so many people, innocent people, many of them men, many of them children and women, are being murdered or tortured or buried under the rubble, where we haven't even taken them out yet? Where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during these times of tension all around the world? Well, brothers and sisters, this is where we have to realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Hakim. He is the most wise. And He knows what none of us know. None of us knows His plan. But we have to understand that He is Allah. He is God Almighty. He is the one who knows everything, who made everything, who created you, who created me, who created everything, who allows these situations to occur. Why does He allow these situations to occur? I cannot give you that answer. That is something only Allah knows, and this is part of our faith, that we have to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does everything for a reason. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should always think positive of Him. Because in a hadith, He says to the Prophet, I am to my slave what he thinks of me. So if you think positive of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what Allah is to you. If you think negative of Him, that He's always giving you a hard time, He's putting you through trials and tribulations, He's making your life difficult, then maybe your life will become difficult. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us all. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Brothers and sisters, another year is almost done. 2024 will be over next week, and we will move into 2025. And we have to understand that everything you and I do in this world, we will be held accountable for. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like it or not, will hold us accountable on that day when He holds everyone accountable. Now, the question is, what did you do with your time? You know, people celebrate when it comes New Year, and I'm not going to go into details of the fiqh or all this about celebrating, but people celebrate the New Year, and it's okay to celebrate accomplishments as we do them, be they the deen or dunya. But do we also realize, brothers and sisters, that the time is passing so fast, and you never know what moment will be your last? And it's something we all have to consider. What action do I want to be my last? If today were my last day on earth, and I will not be alive tomorrow, what would that day look like? Because if I ask any of you, are any of you going to be able to guarantee me you will live until tomorrow? So many accidents happen every day. So many deaths happen every day. Unexpected, completely unexpected. Maybe on the way to work, maybe on the way to the masjid, maybe on the way to anywhere. And this person is gone from the dunya unexpectedly, leaving behind all of his worldly goods, leaving behind everything that will do nothing for him in the grave when it comes to it. And, you know, we do these year-end assessments for work, whether it's financial, people will open up their books and look, okay, what happened financially this year for accounting or whatever it may be, or even just in general, people will look at the year and see, okay, what has a company or organization accomplished for that particular year to see. And this is all fine. And the reason for this is because they want to see, have they been successful for the previous year? And how are they setting themselves up for the next year, the projections? And this is perfectly fine. But what I would ask all of you, brothers and sisters, is what have you done to take accountability for yourself in 2024? Have you opened up your books and asked yourself, what is my accounting for 2024? What have I done to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And then when you have this conversation with yourself, and each and every one of us should have this conversation with ourselves, and ask ourselves, what can we do? Assess 2024, and then what can we do in 2025 to get better? ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكون من الخاسرين اللهم إننا نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار وأقيم الصلاة